In the constantly changing world of fundability, the big question is this: how are entrepreneurs and real estate investors like us, ones who want to grow our businesses and who are tired of paying for really expensive alternative lending, how do we tap into the most inexpensive money available and do it without the hassle of typical borrowing? That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. Welcome to the Get Fundable podcast with your host, Merrill Chandler.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Merrill Chandler here, your host of the Get Fundable podcast and your guide to the Get Fundable universe. In this episode, I am going to the fundamentals of the fundamentals, where everybody's heard of the term OPM. But vast majority of folks haven't connected the dots, haven't done the math of what it means to borrow other people's money, and what are some of what's some of the emotional overhead that comes with some types of borrowing, and what are some of the financial and the calculations we got to be prepared for in measuring our relationships and our reputations. We're going to handle all that when we come back to the Get Fundable podcast. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is Merrill Chandler, your host of the Get Fundable podcast. And today we're talking about those three magic letters. Three magic letters. No, not CIA, not FBI. No, we're not talking about the IRS. We're talking about OPM. What's that spell? Other people's money. Yes. So one of the things that we got some great feedback from some of our boot camps and in my Into the Madness series that we do for all our Funding Hacker tribe members. And what came to us was that we make assumptions. I make assumptions about so many things. I've been doing this for 30 years, you guys, and I make so many, for good or ill, I make assumptions that everybody knows everything about what I'm talking about. So today we're going back to the basics, but the basics, when I say go back to basics, we're talking about the fundamental tool that creates wealth for every single human being who implements it. And that tool, that wealth strategy, is using other people's money to invest, grow, and implement the strategies and ambitions that you have for your life. Other people's money, OPM. So let's start basic and we'll grow from there. What is OPM? Other people's money comes in multiple forms. It's the true definition is any money whatsoever that is not yours, where you didn't work for it, you didn't earn it, it wasn't lottery, you didn't win it on the lottery, you didn't find a treasure map and dig out the X marks the spot. It's any money that is not yours, because if it's not yours, then it's someone else's. Hence, other people's money. Now, while I'm playing with that idea, we got to remember that other people's money comes in myriad forms, right? It could be your spouse's or partner's money, but not yours. It could be your children's college fund, but not yours. It could be a savings account from your parents, but not your money, right? Other people's money. So when I refer to other people's money, we automatically enter very sacred space to me. That includes personal friends, relationships, family members that are willing to lend us money, give us money, provide us money, or partner with us in order to implement our wealth strategies or our projects, right? So anytime we talk about OPM, we're on sacred ground. We're on hallowed ground, because the way we treat other people's money should take into consideration a partnership They're not just lending us money, we pay them interest. If you think it's transactional, you have not played with other people's money very much. It's rarely a simple transaction. If you borrow $100,000 on a business loan from Chase, it's not transactional. The only reason why they gave it to you is because of the relationship that you have built with them and the confidence they have in that relationship. So when we talk about other people's money, we're talking about sacred relationship dynamics. And the more you get what I'm saying, the more that you imbibe and take in and use this frame of reference when using other people's money, the more successful you are going to be. The more happy your people, the others out there, are going to want to invest in you, lend to you, give to you. Okay? Other people's money. Let's review some of the forms that other people's money takes. First of all, as we said, family, friends, intimate connections. If they believe in you and your project, they may lend to you or give to you money. Yeah, then once we leave that sort of, so everything I do is a target. You guys know that. So the bullseye of other people's money is friends, family, etc. Then going out, what takes a little bit more transactional trust. I say we don't want to treat it like a transaction, but more things come into play. If somebody knows you as having borrowed from Aunt May and you paid back Aunt May, well, Uncle Bill may be like, you know what? Aunt May said you were a rock star about that, so I'm going to invest in this round. So that is why I call it the bullseye of other people's money. Be very aware that as we go out in these circles, there is less and less emotional overhead to the transaction, because think about mom and dad. Mom and dad's, oh yes, honey, we want to invest in your project. They give you $50,000. Well, every family dinner, they're going to ask, how's my $50,000 doing? Every time they're on the phone with you, they may check in every single week and say, how's my money doing with you? So there is Chase. It may not do that. Private lenders may not do that. So the more intimate the relationship, there may be more trust. If they give it to you, it's because they're trusting you. But there may also be more emotional overhead. And I don't want to make it sound like emotional overhead is bad. It is not. It's just that that's a fact of life, of dealing in this inner circle. And I think about it. The target is a perfect metaphor, because that inner circle, those inner circle people are actually most likely closest to you as a human, closest to your heart, and you are closest to their heart. All right. So we need to be aware. The next circle out are usually individuals who want to know the nature of the deal that you are asking for their money, right? So those could be private lenders. And private lenders, I mean, if you're in the real estate realm, you know that there are dozens and dozens of subject matter experts out there and influencers who have software to evaluate a deal, right? So the next circle out, your family, your friends, they may want to know about the principles of the deal, but they may not also be savvy to have all the software and all the tools necessary to evaluate the deal. That's why it's based more on pure trust and reputation and relationship. Now, you guys all know in my boot camp, I spend a great deal of energy emphasizing that the building a relationship of trust and building your reputation is the most key factor in borrowing any type of money, whether it's bullseye family or all the way out to commercial and business loans and lines of credit. Relationship and a reputation. So on the inner circle, your relationship and reputation may get you a lot of mileage, right? A lot of mileage because you have done well by other members of the family, or you're a thriving businessman or businesswoman and they want to invest in you. That next level out, the private money. And when I say private money, I'm also including hard money as part of this. Some people want to distinguish it, but for the purposes of other people's money and the discussion of other people's money, private money, meaning they're professional borrowers, but they're not in the commercial business, right? They don't have a shingle out. Many of them, they look for real estate investors. Many of them in the real estate space, you might find private investors at your local RIA, right? Your real estate investment association. You might know people through friends, through other real estate investor associates. Say, hey, I got a great private money lender. Most of these folks, it's a private loan, and depending on how simple or robust their business is, this private loan or this private lender doesn't have to give what do you call it? They don't have to do they don't have to file filings with the SEC. They don't have to publish the terms and conditions of the loan, et cetera, because it's simple. It may be a one-on-one loan. Similarly, are hard money lenders, and hard money lenders and private money lenders, I group them together in that next circle because they're going to vet the deal, not just vet you. Some hard money lenders and private money lenders, when you've done 2 and 3 and 5, 7 of these deals, then they back off of the nature of the deal and increase the amount of money they're willing to lend because your reputation and your relationship are awesome. That is at every one of these. The family members lent to you because of your reputation as an honest and integral man or woman. They may be lending to you because of the reputation you've built in the family. These private lenders and hard money lenders are going to do the same thing. And you have to know there are some people who have been using a single hard money lender for dozens of deals. And so they are on very financially intimate terms of knowing you as a borrower, right? So private money, hard money, the interest rates are generally higher, but these lenders are going to vet your deal. They're going to say, does this deal make sense? I mean, does it make sense at all? Or am I just lending to the reputation of the borrower? This is going to be important for our next circle out. After private money and hard money lenders, the next circle are small business lenders. Now, these are commercial operations. These are the Chases, the PNCs, the BB&Ts, the Wells Fargos and Bank of Americas. They're in the business of lending money to borrowers, right? There are two levels at which they lend, right? Other people's money now has become institutionalized. These are lending institutions rather than private borrowers or hard money lenders. These are now institutional lenders. And these institutional lenders have two levels. There is what is this person's calculated reputation and relationship with us? And then what do we need to vet the deal? So here's where FICO comes in. FICO has established what's called the Small Business Scoring Service, and it will give you a score and it will grade for these institutional lenders. It will grade you as a borrower up to $1 million in unsecured approvals, up to $1 million. After $1 million, the vast majority of all lenders want to know they want to go back to what is the nature of the deal. And that is where all of the details of the deal, the how much you need, why you need it, use of funds, etc. So we're gonna ignore that high-end commercial level funding that above $1 million, right? Where our next circle is that unsecured stated income business lines of credit and business loans. Stated income, meaning it's on one application, they don't ask for verification. They need to know, but in exchange, they need to know the level of your reputation and the level of the relationship. But they want to know who you are in the history of your borrowing patterns. And this is where we get into the entire Get Fundable doctrine, let's call it. The Get Fundable doctrine is, how do we as borrowers qualify for unsecured stated income business lines of credit and business loans, where my reputation stands alone. My relationship with the bank and my financial reputation speaks for itself. Similarly, going back to that private, each one of the previous levels of lending, from family to private hard money, the more relationship they have with you, the more times that you have lent to them and paid it back, the better your reputation, right? You've got a deeper relationship. You've done this so many times and so well that your performance speaks for itself. Well, that reputation, that quality of financial relationship also moves into with Chase, Wells Fargo, all the tier 1 and tier 2 banks, you guys, 100% of them. Because, as I say in the boot camp, your relationship is tracked by what we call internal performance data. That means if I have a checking account and a credit card and a business line of credit with Wells Fargo, which I happen to, but it's with Wells Fargo, they're measuring how far away from zero I am in my checking account. They are, and how much traffic I put through my checking account, how much I use, what's my utilization and traffic and swipes on my business credit card. They're checking how much I use on my on my business line of credit or any business loans. They're measuring it's called internal performance data. They're measuring everything, and that's how they tell how good of a relationship we have. How do I treat their money? OPM, other people's money. How am I treating other people's money? And then so that's what we call relationship building and the performance data that they're measuring with every single current lender that you have. Then we go to reputation. Remember, reputation is what people refer to when they don't necessarily know you yet, right? We rely on, yeah, I was referred to you because you have a great reputation. I don't know you, but somebody else speaks very highly of you. Notice, reputation is separate than the relationship. Reputation is what other people are saying about you. Well, that comes into exactly what is reported on your personal credit profiles, your business reporting, the identity pieces of the business reporting. All of credit reporting is designed to take your relationship, to measure your relationship that you have with every single lender, and broadcast that to other interested parties, future lenders, who want to know what your reputation is before they even engage you. And if your reputation and that the score of that reputation is your FICO score and the underwriting scores that lender give you when they evaluate your credit profile when you file an application and they pull an inquiry. So reputation is that external, is a document, a credit profile, a credit report, an application filed, and all the research that goes with to vet you, to see who you are in the world. And your reputation speaks for you. but every single lender out there wants to build a relationship with you and measure and give you money based on how well you treat their money. Everybody with me? Am I making sense? This is fundamental. And it goes with just as other people's money, they might be strangers. In fact, to make it even more clear, when we talk about using Chase's money, you know whose money we're using? We're using the millions of stockholders of Chase, governed by the board of directors of Chase and the executive, the C-suite, right? The CEO, the CFO, COO, etc. But you are borrowing through this mechanism. You're borrowing your neighbor. If your neighbor has money in Chase, you could go through the very center of the thing, would knock on your neighbor's door and say, "Hey, neighbor, I've been using your lawnmower for 30 years, and we've been awesome. We barbecue on the weekends. Would you lend me 50 grand?" But fascinatingly enough, if your neighbor owns Chase stock, then this entire underwriting process is to protect the stock value of your neighbor in the lending process. We're not every bank out there are usually not privately owned. Not every bank. Vast majority of the tier 1 and tier 2 banks are publicly traded companies. That means they're held by shareholders. Now, there can be mom and pop shareholders, and there could be big corporate conglomerates that owns 20% of a bank. But if a conglomerate owes 20% of a bank, and that conglomerate is owned by shareholders, then the shareholders owe that 20%. Now, I don't want to get too obscure, but the point I'm making is that other people's money generally end up being your neighbor's money. It's a conglomeration of all these different people who own stock in all these different companies. And while the Chase C-suite, CEO, CFO, and COO execute the desires and the policies of the board of directors, guess who votes in the board of directors? All of the shareholders. So we're borrowing money through a very complex mechanism, but that mechanism usually comes down to us shareholders. So we get to treat other people. We don't get that argument of like, oh, the banks are my adversary. I'm just going to do whatever I can to borrow money and not pay them off. Screw them. They're nobodies. No, that money that someone steals comes right off of the shareholder dividends. All profits go to the shareholders, guys. Or they're reinvested to make more value in the shares that then turn into profits for the shareholders. So I don't believe in this big anonymous faceless machine. What I believe is that these big organizations of lenders, of individual baby lenders that we call shareholders, they've entrusted the board of directors, who've entrusted the C-suite personnel to develop policies and procedures to protect their money, but lend it because they only make money when they lend. And that's our take home, guys, is that we get to build a personal relationship with every one of these rings of lenders to us. The more deeper the relationship, the better the lending experience, the lower the costs and the higher the approval amounts from your mom and dad or your brothers and sisters to private lenders and institutional lenders. Your reputation is the only thing that matters to strangers who are looking at you. And here, that's what a reputation is. They hear through either FICO or lender software or other or referrals. This is a good borrower. That's your reputation, and it's been encoded in the FICO score and the lender underwriting software. All of it's encoded is how to evaluate your reputation. But the most important of all of them is your current reputation or relationship with each lender you have. Whether it's an auto loan, a mortgage, whether you have credit cards, checking accounts, your relationship is the source of it all. Just like with your family, just like with those private lenders, those hard money lenders, just like institutional lenders, your relationship with them is number one. It is the most important priority and value. If we have a great relationship, then our reputation will precede us. And the OPM is nothing but a massive faucet that the universe turns on to reward us for developing conscientious and powerful financial relationships, and then having a reputation that is going to expand our opportunities. OPM, 3 powerful letters if we know how to do it well. This is Merrill Chandler, your host of the Get Fundable podcast. If you've liked this, please rate, review, share this podcast. Subscribe if you haven't already done so. For our live listeners, if this is kind of back to basics in some way, and the most fundamental and most powerful principles of financial relationship building. So make sure, share this episode with your family, your friends, your children. Get people on board, like, love, and send us hearts, guys. This is Merrill Chandler. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for listening to the Get Fundable podcast. Please leave comments because Merrill would love to read about your aha moments from this episode. And be sure to visit getfundable.com to read our blog, get important links, join our community, and much, much more, like ordering Merrill's tell-all book that is changing the world, The New F Word. And you got to tell your friends about this podcast because we want them to get fundable too.